Hey y'all, this is Daniel. Welcome to another episode of Blunt Talk, where we talk to you nothing but the truth. You guys really liked the last episode I did about the Michael Jordan and LeBron James debate. No doubt, Michael Jordan wins it hands down. And yeah, so I want you guys to keep. I'm gonna keep you guys updated with the future episodes in store and everything that's to come with the podcast. We got the Instagram account, as I mentioned before. Make sure to follow that, and we are on SoundCloud and on YouTube. So there's more content to come along the way. But without further ado, I have a good friend of mine, a guest for today's episode. His name is Matt Guastafaro, aka Goose. How we doing, Goose?
I'm doing well, bro. Dude, good job on the pronunciation of the last name, by the way. No one ever gets that.
I tried. I didn't want to botch it. You know what I mean? I didn't want to botch it.
I got you.
So how have you been doing, Goose? How's your quarantine been?
It's all right. To be honest with you, it's kind of at home. It's nice being around the family, but it gets old a little bit. So, like, gaming, like, it's only cool for, like, 2 weeks. So I'm just trying to find new things to do. But overall, I guess okay as could be. What about you?
It's been okay for me. I mean, one thing I will say quarantine helped me a lot is my grades. This really helped me boost my grades. Like, whether it's actually finding time to study or to read or just find the answers or whatever it is, it's helped me a lot with my grades. I finished with, like, so far 3 A's and 1 B, and I'm still waiting for one more grade for me to find out later. But and yeah, I've been playing a lot of video games, not gonna lie. I got EA Access, so I got NHL, and I'm about to download Madden next week too. So that's
I'm always
cool.
on Madden, bro. If you ever want to get close with Saquon, I'm your guy.
Okay. Word.
I got you.
I've never been that much of a Madden guy, but I told myself it's quarantine. Let me just jump into Madden. Why not? Screw it. So we'll see. And I've been playing a lot of FIFA and 2K and NHL. That's pretty much it for me so far.
I had to get off FIFA, to be honest with you. I was playing Ultimate Team, and I would just get toasted every time. So I was like, I don't want to lose anymore. I gotta switch it up a little bit, you know?
I've never been that much of an Ultimate Team person. I'm mostly like a career mode person. I just like to like grab a team that's like in the second division, bring them up like a Road to Glory type story.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so that's what I normally do in FIFA. But so the first topic of today's episode, Goose, we're gonna be talking about a little bit about the NBA. So pretty much, like, you and I are both basketball junkies, and we love basketball like very seriously. So I mean, how do you feel about like there being no sports right now with the current situation?
Dude, it's the toughest thing, and to be honest with you, I'm a little bit behind on The Last Dance. I just finished episode 5, so I'm on 6, and I know 7, 8 came out tonight. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, to be honest with you, I think The Last Dance is like the only thing saving me, like sanity-wise. And I just saw the episode with Kobe Bryant on it, and I was like, "What the f?"
That episode made me tear up, low key.
That was crazy, and just to see Kobe as a skinny kid coming at Michael Jordan that All-Star game, I was like, "Damn!" Like, there's not gonna be another Michael, but Kobe was close.
Kobe was close. That's the one thing. I've been doing with The Last Dance is because I have ESPN Plus, so like the episodes just get uploaded the next day. So I just be waiting for like everyone on Twitter to talk about it. And I'm like, sure, whatever. Like I ignore all the hype and all the talk, and then I sit down the next day and just watch it. Apparently, the next episode, the 7 and 8 that came out today, is supposed to be like the Steve Kerr fight.
They went into that on 5, I think, because I think it was a practice, right? They were doing like a simulated practice, and like Michael just kept going at Steve Kerr or something like that.
From episode 5, the one thing I remember was like Michael, like the emphasis on him and practices and like how harsh he was with the people. So that's true.
But to be honest with you, I listened to your last podcast, and going previously before watching The Last Dance, I was all on Team LeBron for the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
Completely 180. MJ's a GOAT, dude. Like in the 90s, these people were armbarring. It was a WWE wrestling match. Like the Pistons said, "Go kill him." They said, "Go kill him," and he was still dropping 48 to 50 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's before he even had like Rodman and like Pippen was a young bull. Like that was just him and Horace Grant, and he was still going on every game.
It was like the original team. And the one thing that people forget is like at first those Chicago Bulls teams were not that good. They were really just like Michael Jordan carrying them over his back. Like he broke the playoff scoring record for that said reason against the Boston Celtics in the first round that year. Because it's like, sheesh, who else is gonna score for us?
4 Hall of Famers on that Celtics team too, right? It was four. Four Hall of Famers were on that Celtics team. It was like
I mean, it's Robert Parrish, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Dennis Johnson was their point guard. So that's the 4 Hall of Famers. And Danny Ainge. You know who Danny Ainge is.
Yeah, he's a good coach. He's a very good coach.
But yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I be going on Twitter and I be laughing my ass off every time I see people like say LeBron James had less. Oh my God, LeBron James is like, bro. You really have to not only look at old footage, but look at the Last Dance too, because it actually will open some people's eyes, in my opinion.
I think the thing that did it for me personally is, number one, if you ever give Michael Jordan, LeBron James just body frame and like just the body he was gifted with by God, that man's going to do so much more than he already naturally does. And like, number two, no person wins 3 straight, takes a year and a half off, goes to another sport, films a major blockbuster movie in Space Jam. Great movie, by the way. On Netflix.
Hey.
Very happy about it.
Look at it, Goose.
And then won 3 more. Yeah, exactly. Space Jam. You're repping. No one does that. No one goes 3 straight titles.
It's very unprecedented. That's the thing. Like, it's never been done in sports before. Like, sure, you got in any sport that people can do a three-peat, but it's not like the person was so good. They said, hey, honestly, let me go and try another sport since I'm so good. Hey, I don't like it. Let me go back to the one sport I was good at and win another three-peat. It's just crazy.
I honestly, like, growing up in basketball, my days were like, from New Jersey, I was a big Nets fan, so like early 2000s, Jay Kidd, Vince Carter, Richard Jefferson, but I really never got into like just watching and studying how great Michael was. It's a whole different thing, dude. He really like we said, like just the culture. He just put that game on the map, and now like that's why we're doing things like this. That's why we're talking about it, because everyone wants to be like Mike.
Definitely. The one thing I've been doing in quarantine a lot has been watching all the NBA playoff games. And then I'm not just playoff games, but all footage. The other day I watched like a double overtime New Jersey Nets versus Phoenix Suns game, which Jason Kidd versus Steve Nash in like 2006, 2007. My God, Steve Nash behind the back passing and all that was insane. And then Jason Kidd had a triple double that game.
Dude, when J Kidd got traded to the Mavericks for Devin Harris, that's like up on being a Nets fan for 6 years because nothing happens. Like, that's your dude, and you give him for Devin Harris.
But to be fair, Devin Harris got 1 All-Star game recognition as a New Jersey Net. Sure,
yeah.
the Eastern Conference was weak, but like, I mean, he still got an All-Star nod.
Yeah,
and I was gonna say one more
too,
thing.
that buzzer beater he had against the Spurs. That's like
really, the half-court one.
Yeah, I'm glad
I remember that
way back in the tapes, but that was like the one cool play I remember growing up. That's what he had.
But the other thing I remember is that's crazy how like Jason Kidd got traded to the Mavericks, because as soon as I don't remember the exact year it happened, but like years later, Mavericks won a chip, and it's like, oh, Jason Kidd was the point guard for that team, the point general. So it's kind of crazy because he never could do it with Vince Carter and Richard Jefferson. Although Richard Jefferson's a little underrated in my opinion, because like he put up stats in New Jersey Nets when he was playing there. But going back a little bit to the topic, what do you think is going to happen with the season?
Honestly, I don't see it coming back. Like, you hate to say it, but my dad works for a hospital, and he kind of like, not a lot of people know anything going on, but I would like to say, like, the little we do know, it's more than the average person. It's going to be a little bit till it gets normal, and I think that the UFC fights without attendance as a start, but just for the NBA in general, it's going to get really hard just to resume the season. And I feel like it's going to be weird. So I think it's just going to be one of those things with the asterisks next to it. And we're going to start back up, unfortunately. Which, as a Nets fan, I'm glad with. KD gets more time to rehab.
You guys get the season to like just rest, and it's like, all right, we don't got to even deal with the playoffs.
It's too much for the first season, too much hype. We gotta pump the brakes a little bit on that.
That's the one thing. Like, so do you think we're just gonna forget about the season and like just be like, yeah, the season ended abruptly. Let's just go on to the next season. No playoffs?
I want to see a playoffs because I feel bad for like guys like Jimmy Butler and the Heat. Like, they came out of nowhere. They deserve a chance.
That was a sleeper team that I was rooting for the whole time, honestly.
Dude, like right when Bam Adebayo broke out, I was like, these people, like, they got something, and I didn't see him having anything, but
No one did. They got shooters like crazy. That boy Duncan Robinson be shooting that like a slingshot. But
Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, they got people that can haul.
Hmm. But that's one thing. Like, I would like to see a playoffs. I just don't see how it's viable because, like, the one thing we gotta mention first is these people, they're used to like the daily regimen of practice and this and reps and then like weights and this and that practice game. So like they've been in quarantine just like us normal people. So you can't expect that. Like, I'm surprised the UFC people did that. Like, they went into like the pay per view like that. Like, of course, individual training is different to like a sport, a team sport, but it's still like it's pretty impressive for like these people to actually be on top of their game, even though they've been doing kind of nothing in quarantine. So like with a team sport like basketball, it's kind of like sure you can open practice facilities, but then it's gonna happen again or something, a second wave, or it's just gonna be too hard to because you're really gonna make it mandatory testing for a whole league, and then like the public doesn't even get enough testing. So there's too many variables in my opinion. I would like to see a playoff, even make it something like best of three series. I heard someone like some people were saying just do it like March Madness. That takes away the whole point of like a playoffs because a playoffs shows you like who can actually grind it out in a series. March Madness is just unpredictability and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I just like you said, it's just so hard to administer all the tests and like have everything like in a timely manner, which like it just sucks. And like I don't know, you just see people like Rudy Gobert like recklessly touching his face and spreading it to like five people in the locker room, and you're just like, what the hell is going on, man? But I don't know.
That's so bad for Rudy Gobert because like if it were any person like at the time could have been joking about it, and not even thought about something, but now it's just because you did that, not knowing you screwed yourself over, and now the Utah Jazz want to trade him. Like that's the point where I just stop it. It's like, bro, he's a defensive player of the year candidate legit every season now.
Oh yeah, and he's getting better on offense every year too, and
He
he's like
kind of is. He's been upping his point tally too.
he's like borderline 7-1. Like he's a mountain. He's like one of those
The
guys.
Stifle Tower.
Yeah.
The Stifle Tower. But yeah, it would be cool to see if we can somehow salvage the season or if we can like make a playoffs. But just I don't see the viability in it.
Like you said, like the March Madness idea is good in theory, but the reason why playoff series are that long is to see who the better team is, because it's kind of hard to squeak by in like 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you really like not a lot of like blunders happen that much. And March Madness, you see teams like FGCU go to the Sweet 16 and
Exactly.
like they came out of nowhere. So I don't know. Like hopefully October we get something going. I want to see KD with that healthy knee, see what he can do. But
Yeah, if you can come back to be full fruition. Fruition? Did I say that right? Full fruition.
Yeah, and this is his legacy. Like people are gonna talk about him in like Hall of Fame regards, and like if he's like one of the better players, if he can do something on the Nets. So like I'm excited to see what can happen.
The one thing I'm intrigued for this Goose is think about like people like Kawhi and Paul George or LeBron. Their contracts now are going to be like they're going into the contract years, bro. Like the Clippers, you wanted to see how this would play out for one season. Now you're thinking, oh, what do we do now in this situation? They got 1 year left, and if they don't even make it past the second round, I'm just saying the hypothesis, but like if they don't make it past the second round, they can leave.
Yeah,
that's one good.
I didn't think about that. How long is Paul George only on a 2-year contract?
Yes, he signed a 2-year contract. I mean, technically, because that's what's left when he signed with OKC. He signed a 3-year deal, and now he played the one season with OKC, and then this was the second year left of the contract. And Kawhi signed a 2-year contract. This free agency class coming up for the Kawhi, like next year, not this year, it's pretty stacked. They got CJ McCollum, Victor Oladipo, you got LeBron James, Giannis. I forgot. Wow, Giannis is a free agent in 2021 too.
He's not staying, and I hate to say
You don't think he's staying? I actually can see him being like the Dirk Nowitzki type player.
That would be sick, but like just like the way the game's going, like you saw, and you said like all those names for this coming free agent class, and I have no doubt it's gonna be crazy. But even last free agent class, you just saw names going, and like you had no idea they were gonna go.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point.
And like
I'm interested too. Hey, my bad for interrupting you real quick. Well, you can follow up. But what's gonna happen to the free agents for this offseason?
I don't know. I mean, like you can't have that many players in a pool, right? Like if you combine both of them, you can't do that many people.
Like, what do you mean, like in a free agency pool? Like have just the people from, like, you mean like something like extend this contract in the next offseason?
I feel like if you have both years in one pool, it would just be like a madhouse. Like you can't control that.
How would you do something like restricted free agents and unrestricted free agents and then bird years and all the other variables and factors? That's interesting.
I
Because
don't.
like the biggest free agent was going to be like Anthony Davis, assuming he didn't sign that extension, and Andre Drummond and Brandon Ingram. Like it was like this free agency class wasn't that like stacked, but like it's still people that like are out of a contract. So how is it going to work? So that's something we'll definitely see in the future. Like we'll find something out, same way as the season.
Yeah.
Lastly, what sport do you think is going to come back first besides UFC? Like what team sport do you think is going to make the first like?
Definitely not baseball. Baseball is like a no-go. Honestly, I wouldn't even say football. I would say European soccer because that sport starts mid-October, and that's the latest of
The
like.
Bundesliga starting in May though.
Yeah, and I saw they were trying to like finish out whatever season they had.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I don't know if I'm wrong by saying that, but I think I saw something on like Bleacher Report.
They're trying to finish it, and apparently they're scheduled to have like a first round of games back again in May 15th. They're gonna have like Schalke versus Dortmund, and I forgot the rest, but that's like the best game coming up. That's a good point. Soccer's gonna be coming up. I think hockey's got a good shot because hockey wants to make a 2014 playoff. I checked on Bleacher Report. That'd be insane. That'd be insane. But
your boys in Washington too always win, so that's not a bad thing for you.
hey, Ovechkin, man, Ovechkin's a beast. The man knows how to put the puck on the net. He's really good with it.
I know you guys beat my Golden Knights in the finals. I was heartbroken.
Hey,
Absolutely.
the Golden Knights are a Cinderella story of the ages. But now let's go on to the next topic. We both compiled our list of the top 5 NBA players per position. And we're going to discuss them and do a little bit of comparison or just debate on them if we agree or not. So how would you want to do this, Goose? Do you want to do your list first or my list first? Or you want to go like our point guards and then shooting guards, like back and forth?
If you want to do positional, that could work. Whoever wants to go first, but we'll just go by position, like point guard, shooting guard, small forward.
Okay. I could start it off. So my first for point guard, I put Luka Doncic because although he's like more of a swing man or like a shooting guard / small forward in reality, they play him as a point guard in the lineup with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Seth Curry and like that lineup. So he's an MVP candidate. I'm sorry, but like the man really has been putting up the numbers, and the man's been single-handedly carrying Dallas to a playoff spot. Like Porzingis has been playing really good, but he's kind of been inconsistent, and then he came back from the injury, so it took him some time to get used to playing in the season. But if you would have seen, like at the start of the season, Luka Doncic was the only one doing anything for Dallas. He had 28.7 points per game, and he's almost averaging a triple-double with 9.3 rebounds and 8.7 assists. Then I got Dame Dollar. Should I say really that much? Because Dame Dollar, even though his team didn't do that good, he's still putting like record numbers statistically. And he's averaging like James Harden numbers in the sense that he's dropping like 50, 45, 50, 45 night after night. Followed up by Chris Paul because Oklahoma City, man, they're looking nice this season thanks to Chris Paul. Like Oklahoma City finally has a point guard that's not all about himself, like Russell Westbrook that he left.
Mm-hmm.
If Chris Paul is actually a general that likes to distribute the ball and actually keep the pace ordinarily like going. Followed up by Ben Simmons as my 4th point guard. Because even though Ben Simmons, I don't think of him as a point guard since he really can't shoot, but he plays as a point guard for the Sixers, so he is a point guard technically. He's almost averaging a triple-double. Like, he's got 16 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists, which is crazy. And lastly, I couldn't decide between Kemba Walker or Russell Westbrook, so I'm going to give it to Kemba Walker just because Boston has a better team so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of mad at myself. I honestly love that point about Luka Doncic that you made. Going into on my list, I listed him as a small forward, but he does play point guard.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly, Chris Paul he flew over my head when making this list. And I'm mad about it because, like you said, Oklahoma City, no one really counted them in. Yeah. And they were playing against good teams, and they were competing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they didn't do it with, like, Steven Adams isn't that much of a weapon.
Gallinari,
like I love him because of Italy, you know, but not the best. But Chris Paul, like I think he's age 34 this season.
He's 33, 34. He gets paid over $40 million per season.
And he didn't make it look like he was overpaid either. Like he made good plays, and
he actually did make it look like his contract is worth it.
And the best play for me, honestly, I think the whole season CP3 was a little double fake. I don't know if you saw that behind the center.
I know what you mean. He kind of does like a double fake pass.
Yeah, that was nice. But we got the same 4. I think Ben's gonna be sliding up this list like next year. He might be even in the 2 conversation, but he got that shot. He doesn't consistently have the shot, but he's taking it, which is a huge step forward for Ben Simmons.
That's true. That is true. That's a good point.
But I think the only discrepancy I have on this list, Boston was a better team, and I hate to say it because I'm not even the biggest Russell Westbrook fan, but I feel like he just does too much to not be ranked above Kemba.
Okay.
And even he had a slight regression this season, like he wasn't getting a triple-double like normal. And I do think he is overrated. I think he belongs at 5, not any higher. But I think he should be above Kemba.
Okay. I agree with your argument. That's a solid argument. And I feel bad saying Kemba's better than Russell Westbrook because they're both good. And the one thing you said I like to point out too, Houston changed their whole team around just so Russell Westbrook could actually start excelling. Because now the second half of the season, Russell Westbrook was looking like an MVP candidate with stats.
I mean, I feel like the first half of the season he didn't have a shot. And then he started pulling, he started making some. And like, you really didn't see that from Russ for 2 years. He had a 3-point shot like 2016, 2017, and then he stopped pulling it. And then it got like really, really iffy. And he started getting that back a little bit. One guy I would have loved to have on both of our lists, he kind of just didn't make it, was Trae Young. I feel like he kind of should get a shout out. That man is nice.
He's a good player, but like I feel like he doesn't do like I just said Luka Doncic, for example. Like he puts up good stats and he manages to get his team to win. Trae Young puts up a little bit of empty stats as of right now. Of course, he's still in the second season, but like potential-wise, he would be number 1 in the point guards.
Now, here's a question. Do you think Luka Doncic is the top 3 player in the NBA?
A top 3 player in the NBA?
Mm-hmm.
Not yet.
Not yet. I could see it going either way. I wouldn't say he is, but I understand the argument for he came out of nowhere, like you said, triple-double a game, and he's what, 6'5"?
Hey, it's not really out of nowhere though, because he won like 2 MVPs back in Europe. Like he actually was putting up like the numbers, and he was being like notably recognized for all his accolades back in Europe. And like people don't think about it, but the European Basketball League, that's like the second or third top league in the world. So like it's people with actual talent, and you could even say the people that play in Europe are better than the people that play in the NCAA. So it's like a more competitive and more, I don't know what the word is, but like when you're scouting and you see how the person's performing, it's like if he's doing it in the professional league, he's got a good shot in the NBA. And that's what Doncic is
for Madrid, right?
Real Madrid. He played for the Real Madrid Basketball Club and won a couple titles too. But so can you tell me your list in order, Goose? Just a quick rundown.
1 to 5 or 5 to 1?
1 to 5.
All right. So, unfortunately, I didn't know we were going on injured players. So, my 1 right off the bat would be Steph Curry.
Okay.
Honestly, not a huge Steph Curry fan either, but it just changed the game of basketball with how he plays. I ref Little League basketball, and just the difference from me playing rec basketball to these 10-year-olds, like I would be in the key every time. Now these 10-year-olds are throwing up 3-point shots, and they hit them sometimes, and they're deep. Yeah. And now you see just with the way the game's played now, it's all about spacing, and like everyone's got to be able to hit a shot. And before that wasn't the case, and that's kind of because Steph Curry.
Yeah.
You look at him, just the eye test, he really doesn't wow you. He's 6 foot, really not that heavy, doesn't have muscle, like doesn't have speed out of the building, but just that dribbling skills, that awareness. I mean, honestly, in my book, I would say he's still the best point guard in the game.
If he hadn't gotten injured, I would have said he would have been the top point guard because those 2-3 games he played this season, he averaged over 20-something points, and he put up good 3-point percentages and everything. Like he was looking like for an MVP candidate season. So I agree with you.
And he was in a saturated backcourt nonetheless too. He was with D'Lo and Klay Thompson, and I think D'Lo is a better fit. And Minnesota, he's one of my favorite basketball players. Shout out D'Lo. But Steph Curry, number 1. Number 2, who I would have loved to put at number 1, but I just didn't because Steph Curry's Damian Lillard. Like you said, that man's an absolute dog. He's different. He's just got ice in his veins. He knows how to play basketball. I was on him for a while, but just hitting that 3-pointer at half court over a 7-foot Paul George, that makes you something special. And like,
Yeah. The whole meme about it and how it just became like a thing now, like cold-blooded and everything. Like that was like something that really like now cemented Damian Lillard's legacy. Because thanks to that shot, they went to the conference finals and they actually went kind of far in the playoffs.
yeah, and it's Portland. Like Portland hasn't really done anything since Drexler, to be honest.
Bill Walton.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I think Damian Lillard in a couple of years he might be the best point guard in the NBA. That's someone we might be talking about number one.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to get a little bit more talent. Like CJ McCollum's nice, Melo's mellow, but they don't have like a Klay Thompson or Draymond Green like Steph Curry does. So like that's why.
The problem with Portland this season is they made it to the conference finals, and after that, since all their players that were like the supporting cast, like their stock, if you want to call it, like their stock was at the highest peak because they all performed really well, right? So they traded them away. They traded them away. I don't get that. Like, I mean, they tried to sell high, but the returns weren't that nice. Because sure, you get Hassan Whiteside, his contract was expiring, so you could trade him, whatever, or just get like money off the Bucks for free agency. But like, you had Nurkic, and Nurkic is injured, of course, but that just left you with an empty hold for like the forward positions.
Yeah, and I forgot they had both of them, Nurkic and Whiteside. Wow.
Nurkic is still out, bro. He's someone that like the KD situation you mentioned. He's very happy this happened because now as soon as the next season starts, Nurkic is going to be the first person out here trying to do a triple-double if he can.
Damn, I think like you said, I think Portland. Do they still have Whiteside or no? He's still in the squad.
They do. No, they do technically. It's his contract year though, so like they were trying to trade him to get another piece. Like they were rumored to get Kevin Love, but they just couldn't get the deal.
They got to add a 4. They got to get rid of a 5 and add a 4, no matter who it is, because I feel like both Nurkic and.
I said keep Nurkic though, because Nurkic isn't that defensive, but like he still got rebounds and can actually get assists too.
Mm-hmm.
Nurkic is a little underrated.
I think Whiteside's actually a bit overrated. Like that one Heat season bought him a lot of hype, and it was
get my 2K rating up.
He's always an 85 in 2K. He's not even anything special. But yeah. So I would say Lillard number 2. Number 3. Very controversial. Not a lot of people might agree with me, but I think Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, my opinion, best dribbler in NBA history. He has the best.
That's a good case. I mean, I wouldn't argue against that case because he is one of the best ball handlers and just like dribblers and ankle breaker people in the league. That's true.
Exactly, and he's bringing a New York style of basketball back to New York, which is really exciting because unfortunately, even though you walk through the streets of New York, there's a bunch of basketball courts, always people playing basketball. Talent-wise, compared to other places in the country, they're not
as good as it used to be. Like I know what you mean. New York was like a foundational place for basketball in the States, and then it's not the same as it is because you have people like Rayford Alston or Steve Francis, like all those like New York like street ballers that came up, and then like that's what made New York really good in basketball. So
that was their brand of basketball. But unfortunately, like we see with the Knicks, like Brooklyn just moved to New York. With the Knicks, there's a huge regression in not even just talent in New York, but just New York basketball in general.
That's the one thing. Like Brooklyn as a city has progressed a lot, and one of the things that has seen from the progression was like the basketball team and that, and yeah, that's the one thing because like notable New York point guards that are left in the NBA. Let's see if you knew. Like, did you know Kemba Walker was a New York point guard?
I did actually, and I love that he hit cardiac Kemba in New York. That was really just
Madison Square Garden. That's the shot. That's why I'm a big Kemba fan because of that shot. But yeah, like it's Kemba Walker and like Kyrie Irving, the only New York point guards that you can come up on the spot. So that's a good point. So you said you had Steph, Dame, Kyrie, and who's the other 2?
So Kyrie at number 3. My 4 matches yours. I said 4 with Ben Simmons.
Okay.
He's another guy I think that could surpass Kyrie in the list next year. Just purely based on his size, he's a walking mismatch. He's kind of what the Bucks did with Giannis when Jay Kidd was a coach and running for point guard. That's kind of what Sixers are doing now, and it's working. And you just see at a size mismatch, they have just an abundance of height all over the court. They can't. cover any of them. I think the thing that hold him back obviously is the shot, but he still has dribbling skills for a guy. I think he's what 6'10", 6'11".
6'10", around there.
He's up there and he's quick. He can posterize you whenever he wants. He's great on defense. So I would say he's 4. And then I put my 5 at Russell Westbrook. Like you said, either or, depending on the basketball fan, you could say Kemba Walker, and that's a fine argument too, because the Celtics were a lot better than the Rockets, in my opinion.
Okay.
And he's more of a true point guard, but just Russell Westbrook stat-wise, I'm a big stat guy. I think numbers do a lot of the talking, and he has that a lot. So that would be my top 5 all around.
Very respectable. The reason I didn't put Kyrie in my list was because he got injured later at the end of the season. So, like, I was like...
Yeah, he had a weird nursing ankle injury that kind of just kept going on for no reason.
He looked like he wasn't that motivated to finish the season. He's like, yeah, I actually like not having to answer questions to reporters and all that.
I think that scares me with Kyrie's his attitude. It's always been like a huge question mark.
Now let's go on to the shooting guards. So I'm going to quickly just read, like, my list, and then I'll talk to them about him. I got number 1, James Harden. Number 2, Donovan Mitchell. Number 3, Devin Booker. Number 4, Paul George. And number 5, Bradley Beal. James Harden is James Harden. Although he chokes in the playoffs, he is a regular season scoring machine. And if there were, like, playoff awards and then, like, regular season awards, I wouldn't mind giving James Harden the MVP all the time for the regular season. But he would never win any awards in the playoffs because he's just not like that. And it's crazy to think about because in Oklahoma City that year in the finals, like they faced the Heat, he was known for being clutch that year. And then after that, it just poof, disappeared for no reason. Then you get Donovan Mitchell. Like the Utah Jazz were a really good team this season, surprisingly. And I say surprisingly because like it's the Western Conference and it's kind of stacked. So whenever you be like, okay, Utah added this person, like they'll be good, whatever. But they actually were like for most of the part of the year like a 4, 3, 5 seed. So that actually showed because they normally are like a 5, 6 seed. So now they took a little bit of a step up. Then I got Devin Booker because, boy, at the start of the season, I'm assuming we both can say that Devin Booker looked like he was going to carry the Suns into an 8th seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Booker, I think his three-point kind of went down a little bit.
Oh, it has. It has. It actually has.
He's more of a playmaker now. You see him, he's kind of like I would say he's a shooting guard, and he's listed for me as such. But you can make the argument for point guard too.
Oh yeah, no, because like, who else is in Phoenix? Who else is in Phoenix that's gonna do that? Ricky Rubio. Finally, they got a playmaker, but Ricky Rubio's still not that like top tier player. Yeah. So that's why I put Booker because at least at the start of the season he had so much like going for him that it's kind of hard to dismiss. And now like they're battling for that 8th seed spot. And putting up numbers, and it's like the shooting guard position is a little diluted in my opinion because like it's like one of the ones that's like I've seen like the last decade kind of has like the least talented players. I don't even know if that makes sense, but then I put Paul George, and I didn't put him as high because he's kind of been inconsistent this season, and playing alongside Kawhi Leonard too, his stats kind of diluted. The leg injury, him coming back, all that. I took all that into effect because like if I would have put him up like higher if he would have performed better, but he kind of is like his shot isn't there and his defense isn't there. Like you can see when you see like them playing the Lakers and it's like Kawhi got tired of guarding LeBron. Okay, Paul George do it, and LeBron just passes by him. It's like oh okay. And then lastly I put Bradley Beal because Bradley Beal is a bucket getter. He just gets you buckets. He just gets you buckets. It's crazy because I don't know if you know this. He was the first time ever in NBA history where a 30-point per game scorer didn't make the All-Star game.
Did not know that. It's a fun fact.
How about you, Goose? Who are your shooting guards?
So number 1, I actually just made a quick change to be honest with you. I, for some reason, didn't think of Donovan Mitchell. I don't know if it's quarantine getting to me. I don't know, lack of reason. He did not make my list, so I had to pull a quick audible on that one. So now he's on the list.
Okay.
But number 1, same as you, James Harden. Like you said, just one of the best bucket getters in the game. That double step back, questionably a travel, I don't think so. But just he's very good at doing what he does. So number 1, James Harden. My number 2 is a little bit different than yours. I said Paul George. Like we said, he did regress a lot, but it's kind of hard not to when you're besides Kawhi Leonard. In my opinion, he's the best.
Okay.
I think Kawhi is the best player in the NBA. So when you have that person of that caliber, like you kind of do get it. And Paul George, 7 foot. You really don't get a lot of 7 foot shooting guards. He's listed at 6'10", 6'11", but like.
Well, he's really tall. He's like a KD when they say he's 6'10", 6'11", but he looks like 7'1", 7 whatever.
He keeps growing for no reason. So like he's my number 2. My number 3 was Klay Thompson, and then I heard you say Donovan Mitchell. I was like, what am I thinking? Why isn't Donovan Mitchell on the list? So I put Donovan Mitchell number 3. He's another guy too. Like probably next year, he's probably gonna be the second or first best shooter.
He was averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists.
Yeah, and like he was on a team with the Jazz. Like we said, Rudy Gobert is not that much of an offensive guy. Michael Conley kind of didn't do what he was expected to do. So he was the guy there. And he's 22 years old and putting up crazy stats every game.
He's a youngling. He's really a youngling doing, like, he's getting Dwayne Wade comparisons. And I'm going to be one to say, sure, give it to him. He's playing like Dwayne Wade.
And the thing with him, too, he's not afraid to take any shot.
He really isn't.
He has one of those, like, you can't really say Mamba mentality because Mamba's Mamba, but, like, doesn't have a lot of fear going into the offense.
I know, I get you. I get what you mean.
So my number 4, I just put this because I'm a Florida Gator fan. I put Bradley Beal at number 4. Like you said, bucket getter, 30 points a game. I didn't even know he got snubbed scoring that much, but like absolute bucket getter, Bradley Beal. And he
Wizards are really bad though. That's the point. That's the thing.
They are, but it's kind of hard to be good when John Wall's hurt all the time. And I think John Wall is one of the most underrated point guards in the NBA, but
me too.
Different conversation. But I had Beal at 4, and then my number 5 was Devin Booker. Kind of what you were talking about before. The Suns were a ragtag team besides him and DeAndre Ayton, and not a lot of people expect them to do good. They competed, and they won a lot of games I think they shouldn't have, and that's kind of credit to how Devin Booker ran the offense. I guess my honorable mention would be Klay Thompson. He was my number 3 before, but I had to switch it after Donovan Mitchell, but that would be my 5. I would be pretty confident in.
Klay Thompson easily would have been on my list if he wouldn't been injured. Sadly, like he got injured in the finals. Like that was a tragic injury. But yeah, I can't agree or disagree with your list in the order, but like people that you mentioned, like we're pretty much in the same boat. Small forwards now. Well, LeBron James is number 1. Kawhi Leonard is number 2. Number 3, I put Jimmy Butler. Number 4, I put Chris Middleton, which if you would like to look at Basketball Reference, I forgot what it was, but he's got a nickname that I was like, what? And then number 5, I put Tobias Harris because like I'm a big Tobias Harris guy. And after, was it Ben Simmons got injured or Joel Embiid? They both get injured, but one of them got injured and he started averaging like 30 points that whole 2 weeks that the guy got injured. So he was putting up stats. My arguments, I mean, LeBron James was about to be the league leader in assists. LeBron James was about to be the league leader in assists. That's just crazy to think about. It's like the evolution of the game and how like more people are now doing a little bit of everything, triple doubles in the shooting and all that with the stats inflation and whatever you want to call it. But yeah, LeBron James reinvented himself to be a floor general now. He's like, I don't need to be the prime scorer. AD, you can do that. I'm going to just be the dimer. I'm going to pass it. That's it. Kawhi Leonard, the fun guy. I mean, it's Kawhi Leonard. After the finals he had, like him going to the Clippers and now bringing them to be like a top 4 team in the West. And the numbers that he's got back him up. It's just like you can't really argue against it. It's Kawhi Leonard. And then I followed up by Jimmy Butler, as we mentioned earlier. Jimmy Butler was doing a lot for that Miami Heat team. At first, I questioned the move. I was like, wait a minute. You're going to Miami to win? What? But as he said back in Minnesota to Karl Anthony Towns, you need me to win. So, like, Jimmy Butler backs it up. I put Chris Middleton because he's in Milwaukee and, like, he averages stats that, like, back it up in a sense. And, like, he still is a really good shooter, too. And I feel like the one thing that could go that you could say about it is that how would he fare on a team of his own? I don't know if he would be that good as he is now with Giannis because he's kind of like the Robin to his Batman. And as I explained earlier, Tobias Harris, Tobias Harris got overpaid. I will agree on that, but just because of the way I don't like how Philly runs their offense and how it works, because that team is a dysfunctional mess in my opinion. But Tobias Harris back in the Clippers, back in the Pistons, back in the Magic, back in Milwaukee, Mance was putting up numbers, and like he's still a good scorer. So like if they ever do something to trade away Al Horford or something and slide him back into the power forward, who knows? But he was averaging decent numbers this season, in my opinion. So I put him as the fifth option. How about you?
Tobias Harris, another guy I would have loved to put on my list, but unfortunately, I didn't get the non-injured memo, so I took into account a lot of injured players. But I would have ranked Tobias Harris above Chris Middleton, even with
I was thinking about it. I was flip flopping. I didn't know.
Tobias Harris. Like he's very very good at offense. Like he's just one of those guys. Like if you need a bucket, you go to him, and unfortunately, like you said, Philly kind of like they don't really know how to run their team, and they have a lot of offensive pieces. So he doesn't.
Wait, what did you say?
I said, Tobias is like one of those guys. Like when you need.
Oh, the coach. Did you say the coach?
No, I said for Philly, like they're not.
Oh,
really,
I thought for a second I thought you said Billy, and I was like Billy. My bad. I misheard.
Not Philly. For Philly, they really just don't know how to run their offense, and they have a lot of offensive guys. So Tobias doesn't shine that much, but he's a great offensive player, and I think he might be above Chris Middleton. Honestly, I don't know that much about Chris Middleton, so
No one does.
I really can't comment on that. Like, I don't want to say something that's wrong, so I'm not gonna say anything about it.
Yeah.
But I see LeBron above Kawhi. I see Kawhi above LeBron. Either way, like it's fine with me.
It's interchangeable.
Yeah, who's your three again? Who'd you say? Jimmy Butler?
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, so like he would have been up there for me if I like didn't put uninjured guys on there too. Like he's a great player. It would have been cool to see if he stuck with Minnesota and never left to see what he could.
Yeah, because they probably could have actually grown together and been something better, but we'll never know.
But he's like one of those guys. Like he's not afraid to run with third string guys on the practice court, going against fourth strings, and he'll dog. Like he won't wow you shooting the ball outside, but he's just very good at a lot of stuff. So like I see your list. For me, I just would have put Kawhi over LeBron, but other than that, like not a lot of bad things on that list, I would say.
Okay.
But for my list, I didn't know that uninjured guys weren't in. But for number one, I put Kawhi. I'm actually looking at the stats now, Kawhi versus LeBron, and I would have said statistically that LeBron had a better season. I don't know.
That's the only reason I really put LeBron over Kawhi, statistically speaking.
Yeah,
that's what made it for me, because they both have similar records for their teams, and honestly, it's a battle between them both for the Western Conference Finals. So like, you can't go wrong. I agree with you. You can't go wrong.
I didn't look that much into the stats before I put in the list, which I even said before, stats was the most important thing to me, so I wish I did. But I just think off that Toronto championship, Kawhi is still number one for me. It's kind of hard to switch a team and win against Golden State like that. So I would put Kawhi at number one. Number two, and I'm saying this going into next year. I'm not saying this year. I would say going into next year, I would say Kevin Durant's my number two. A lot of people would disagree with me there. A lot of people would say LeBron's even number one, Kawhi too. But Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is the best offensive basketball player this game has ever seen.
He's up there. He's definitely up there. He's one of the greatest gems we've seen in the sport.
He's number one. He's the best offensive player this game has ever seen. He's 7 foot. To even contest a shot, you can't. It's a foul every time you contest a shot. He's like one of those Dirk shots when you fade back. You're slapping that elbow every time.
Yep.
To see him actually run an offense with, I hope, a point guard that's not that selfish. He might be with Kyrie, but for me, I think just Kevin Durant, he's away from Clay, he's away from Steph. He's a focal point now, and not saying he wasn't Golden State, but he wasn't as much as he would like.
Yeah, I mean, he really wasn't a focal point in the Warriors. It was Curry's team the whole time.
It always was, and like it sucked because KD was the best player on that team, but it always was Curry. But I think if the Nets find a solid coach, they fired Kenny Atkinson, right? He's gone.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if the new coach is interim. I don't know. since Corona kind of stopped my basketball radar. But if we find a coach that tailors to his needs, I think KD.
I heard you guys were in the running just like the Knicks for Tom Thibodeau.
Hey, great defensive mastermind. I love what he did with the Bulls. He
Replaces players though, and that's not what you want with KD with his injury, in my opinion. So we'll see.
But yeah, so I put KD number 2. A lot, you could say that's biased too. Huge Nets fan, so I might just be excited he's on my team. But he's my number 2. Number 3, LeBron. I hate even saying that, but like
he's old. It's okay.
All the time, like most of the time, I would say he's number 1. But LeBron 3, I didn't even know he almost led the league in assists. So
he didn't the league in assists the whole year since game 1 of the season.
I didn't even know that. So if I knew that, he probably would have been even number 1 or 2 on my list. But LeBron at 3. At 4, I mislisted him compared to you, but I put Luka at number 4.
Okay.
Like you said, he is a point guard, and probably should have thought of that before making this list. But I just went off what he's listed at. He's one of these guys. I want to say he's number 3, top 3 now in the NBA. But next year,
once in a generation type talent.
He is, and like he's gonna be better than Zion, in my opinion.
Definitely. Zion got too injury prone, and then Zion depends on athleticism.
And I think Luka, he's just one of those guys too. You were talking about it before, but just having that really, really competitive experience back in another league, that's not a lot. That's something a lot of guys can say. Like NCAA is competitive, but you're playing against grown men. And Luka was doing that at age 16, and he was winning MVPs.
And they're playing a whole season. In college, you play 30 games, and then depending on how good you did, March Madness, NIT, whatever. And then, like, the whole point of college, like, you've seen, like, the people now, the newest recruits, they're going to the G League now, or they're going to Australia to play. They don't want to deal with school. They don't want to deal with school, and that's just another variable. So Luka, like, went through the whole aspect of, like, living on himself and then, like, growing up, like, and actually training. Like, it's a different way to come up. So, like, Luka deserves it. Luka's earned it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think give Luka 3.5 years, he's going to be the best small forward, if you want to consider that, or the best point guard. He's one of those guys, once in a generation. Like, even though he's 6'5", 6'6", he's not the tallest guy in the world. He's one of those guys that just really knows how to play the game, and that's why I put him there. If I was making point guards, I probably wouldn't put him. I would put him above Curry, even if Curry wasn't uninjured. Honestly, like he's just that good of a player.
Yeah.
But small forward is the most saturated position in the whole sport. They're just like great guy after great guy, and like, it's kind of how it is. And then number 5, biggest surprise of the season, Jimmy Butler. Absolute animal. Just really loves to compete. I think this Heat should have some sort of playoff, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Could do. But that would be my 1 through 5. I don't know. I'm not that confident at Kevin Durant at 2, but I'm sticking at it with that. But a lot of people would debate me on that Kevin Durant at 2.
Yeah, like, you have the people debating on you. Because, like, if we were just doing the list on, like, overall talent, like, not considering the season and injuries and that, my list would have been way different, too. So that's one thing that, like, is good to point out. And, yeah, people love KD and people hate KD. So, like, as you said, some people are going to argue with you and fight with you with your decision to put in as number 2.
And I was one of those guys. Oh, my God. When he signed with the Warriors, I was sliding his DM every day, sending a snake emoji. I was like, you're doing sport. I hate you. You're the worst. And then, like, June 30th last year in the summer, he signed with the Nets. And I was like, oh, my God.
Of course, you got to, because now he's on your team. So you got to support no matter, like, the history and everything. It's like with LeBron, after everything LeBron did, if he went to the Knicks, I'd be like, oh, my God, oh, hail LeBron. Like, I'd be a quick 180. I can't lie. It's just how it works as a fan base.
Yeah, and I feel bad you're a Knicks fan, too, dude. That sucks.
Man, it's been like this for a while. We'll figure it out eventually. I mean, ownership. It looks like ownership is kind of going and turning it around with, like, getting in, like, rid of some people in that upper echelon of the company. Not the company. You know what I mean? So, like, eventually we'll see if Dolan sells the team or whatever. But we kind of passed over the 45-minute mark that I kind of wanted to do for the episode. So we'll just wrap it up with, like, we'll do the power forwards and the centers, and that'll be the end of the episode. Is that cool?
Yeah. So I'll fire off my power forwards real quick because I guess time flies by when you're having fun. It's been a long time. That's what we're going by. But power forward number 1, Giannis.
Understand the blitz. To be honest,
You can't say Giannis is not number one.
he's my number one too.
Number two, and I don't even think he's a power forward, is AD. Like,
I think he is. I don't like him being as considered a center. I feel like it's weird because he's not that strong, or I mean, not trying to say he's a weakling, but you know what I mean. Like I feel like
he's wiry.
yeah, and he's 6'10". He's not that tall either. It's like the Clint Capella. Like Clint Capella plays like a center, but he really should be a power forward.
Yeah, and like AD number two, 7'6", 10 point guard. He's like one of those guys who just really can shoot anywhere.
Block party. It's non-stop blocks, bro.
Number three, Blake Griffin.
Respect. I respect.
It was weird putting me in there, but power forward, it's really not that strong of a position. But when he's healthy, and I love how Blake Griffin changed his game. He never had that outside mid-range shot. He was always just drive to the hole. Let's see who he can poster. But
he worked on it a lot, and he changed his game up, like you said. That's one thing I liked him in Detroit. When they still had Andre Drummond, it was like the first couple years, I was like, no way. Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, we're bringing back the bigs. Come on, let's get it. It's post-up play or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, Blake Griffin really did a lot in Detroit, like, to change his game up and his style, but sadly, injuries.
Yeah. It could be that he's paying his baby mama $120,000 a month too.
That too.
But he's at number three. Number four.
Did you know that? Not bad, but did you know that he's averaging his lowest statistical season in his career?
Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin. He's in the lowest numbers in each stat category ever in his career. Even in his rookie season, he had higher numbers.
I did not know that. That's crazy.
Well, to be fair, he's only played, I don't even know, 20-something games.
And he's on the Pistons. Kind of sucks to be on the Pistons. But he's number three. Number four, Al Horford. Shout out. He's Puerto Rico, right? Or is he Dominican?
Dominican. He's Dominican.
Dominican
Well,
Republic.
he's a Florida Gator.
Another Florida Gator. He's one of those guys too. He's just one of those big men who never used to shoot a three, then added an outside shot and just made it work. So I really love him. Personally, don't love him on the Sixers. But I
don't like the fit on the Sixers. But I will say this. Al Horford's that one player. Stats don't back it up. But when you see him play on the court, you're like, he's really good. I saw the Sixers play the Knicks in February. And it was like when Joel Embiid was injured. Al Horford was back in his prime that game. He dropped 20-something points and like double digits in rebounds. Like, Al Horford still got it. It's sad that he's in the dysfunctional Philly system, though.
Yeah. And then number five, I could change this, honestly. I just put this here because of the defense, but Draymond Green. Don't love him as a guy, but offensively, he's not going to wow you, but just he's not afraid to really go up against anyone. And more often than not, he gets the job done. So that would be my top five. I would love to hear who you have at five because honestly, I would be very open to see changing Draymond because he's one of those guys.
One quick note I want to say about Draymond Green is he's what in baseball would be like a 5-tool player. Like he does a little bit of everything in basketball. Even though he's not good in one specific category, he can help you out. And second, I think is disgraceful when they compare him to Charles Barkley. Have you seen Charles Barkley play? Come on, bro. Charles Barkley was dog. But my list. Number one, Giannis, 29.6 points per game, 13.7 rebounds per game, and 5.8 assists. Do I need to say more? They got the best record in the Eastern Conference and the NBA for 2 straight years now. Anthony Davis, man, is one of those people that was in New Orleans. Sadly, he was putting up good stats in the bad team. Now he's finally in the Lakers. Now people are like, oh, wow, so this Anthony Davis guy is really the real deal. He's actually backing it up, and he's a candidate for MVP. I know I've been saying a lot of these people are MVP candidates, but Davis is an actual legitimate candidate. Number 3, I put the one and only Spicy P, Pascal Siakam. So, fun fact, Pascal Siakam was at the start of the season, he was looking to be the first ever most improved player 2 times in a row. And the reason for that is he started this first 41 games of the season averaging the amount of points per game Kawhi Leonard was averaging his last season with Toronto, which would be like a 8-point per game jump over last season.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think he deserved that most improved player last year, though.
Who was the other person that was competing against him? I forgot. Who?
D'Angelo Russell.
D'Angelo. I feel like low-key it could have gone either way, but like the media was gonna go with Siakam because he got a title.
He's a second round pick that came out of nowhere, and like he was like
New Mexico State, bro, the Aggies.
Yeah.
But Pascal Siakam went from averaging like 7 points per game to like 16, 17 points per game. Now he's currently averaging 23.6 points per game. And he's not that good of a defender, like in the blocking like perspective, but he's good at steals. He averages a steal per game, and he gets you a little bit of rebounds. And he in this era of small ball, he wouldn't be able to be a center because he's like not that dependable to be like post up defense or whatever. But he could actually be like a good player to have in this era because he can shoot too. That's the one thing. And I just think about the improvement in the way that Toronto's season was going. Because Toronto, after Kawhi, like we both can agree, we didn't think they were going to be this good. So they're still doing really good. And after Pascal Siakam, I got that boy Jason Tatum because he's listed as a power forward because he plays in that 3-4 rotation with Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward. After the playoffs, like last season with Kyrie and like the Celtics failing to the Bucks, everyone was like, yeah, Jason Tatum ain't looking like nothing. Like, man, just trade him for AD straight up. Oh boy, how Celtics fans have felt happy they did not do that because Jason Tatum came back and he even got an all-star nod for this year. And he's putting up the numbers and he's part of that Celtics team with Kemba Walker and Jaylen Brown is doing really good. But lastly, as my power forward, I put Domantas Sabonis. Man, did you think about Domantas Sabonis? Because he got an all-star nod and he's the best player for Indiana. That's the 6th seed in the East.
I know Domantas Sabonis. I know he's a guy, but he's like one of those just like weird European stretch three-pointer force for me. Like I think he's talented.
He actually can't shoot the three-pointer. I looked it up because I thought like you. I was like he can stretch the floor, right? He shoots a 320, no, 300 under 300 3-point percentage.
Wow.
He's mostly if you look up his stats, like I have it here, he averages 12.4 rebounds per game and under 20 points per game. But he's got over like 30 double-doubles this season.
Dirty work guy. Flew over my head. Dirty work. Like, I'm fine with putting him over Draymond Green. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Yeah, and also, you got to think about it because people were like, okay, Indiana has no Oladipo this season, so what can they do? And Domantas Sabonis and Brogdon, too. Brogdon's a person we forgot to talk about, but they both stepped it up. So that's my argument for him being here. Now, I'm going to go on to my centers real quick, and then you can say your centers. Number one, I put the process, do a 180, Joel Embiid, because this man pretty much, I mean, Joel Embiid is the modern day Hakeem Olajuwon, except he's too focused on shooting threes. And he's at fault because of the system in Philly, but with the stats he puts up and him just being like very young in the league, like discount all the seasons he was out with injuries or he barely played, 24 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, and like 1.3 blocks. That's really solid. And like the center position is the position, in my opinion, that was like, it's kind of the most interchangeable because when I was doing my list, the position I changed the most, the order, was the centers, at least for me. So Joel Embiid's got to be first. Then you got to get the Joker, Nikola Jokic. Man is a point guard in the center's body. He looks like that fat kid that got bullied in like at middle school, and then like he grew up to be like a giant, and then like people were like, uh-oh. So man's just 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists. That's pretty good. After him, I put the Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert, the French Rejection. He's got so many nicknames, it's hilarious. And now with coronavirus, I mean, you can add in another nickname. But he as we talked earlier, he improved the scoring a little bit. He's been doing it little by little. The Utah Jazz had a really good season, and he's still a defensive player of the year candidate like he'll probably be for the rest of his career. Honestly, it's like the Dwight Howard effect. And followed it up. This was difficult. The most difficult two for me were like the 4 and 5 percenters. I put Karl Anthony Towns just because he's really putting up really good stats, even though it's a bad team situation. But like you can't deny it. 26.5 points, 10.5 rebounds. He's averaging a double-double. And as a center, he's averaging 41.5 3-point percentage, which is crazy. And side note, in my career for 2K, I won 2 chips with the Timberwolves. And my favorite thing to do was the pick and pop with Karl Anthony Towns. He never misses.
Oh my God, dude! I made the same Timberwolves franchise. Him at the 3 is disgusting.
He's really good as a 3-point shooter. He's really
green
good.
bean every time. Green bean every time.
He does. And then after that, I put Andre Drummond. I've always been fond of Andre Drummond, and I've always liked it because he's like that center that's like, yeah, I know I can't shoot, and at this era I should be able to shoot, but like I'ma just do me. And he's led the league in rebounds for like the last 4 or 5 years. Did you know that?
Yeah, and he's one of those players. I think if he played 10 years earlier and played in like 2003,
not even that, even earlier, like the 90s, the 80s.
Would have been great.
It would have been like compared with Robinson and like Shaq and like Elijah. He would have been in that conversation easily because of the rebounding stats and all like the post play.
And he still makes it work despite never really working on a jump shot. He still makes it work somehow.
But the quick thing I will add is like he got traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers this season, and I don't know if you remember about the trade, but they got in return John Henson. No picks, John Henson.
Just for Andre Drummond?
Yep. And a couple other people, but they're not that significant. So that made me think, how does the league value Andre Drummond since he can't shoot? But that's the quick note that I'll add.
That's a highway robbery just for John Henson.
No picks. No second rounders, nothing.
I didn't even know he was on the Cavs.
Yeah, he's been playing. He played for the Cavs like 10, 12 games.
So they have Colin Sexton. They still got Love.
Darius Garland, Kevin Love, and Tristan Thompson.
Not bad.
But Drummond is a contract year, but he's got a player option. But I don't know, because he talked grimy about the Detroit Pistons locker room and the whole organization. So Cleveland ain't exactly a step up. So he's a person that I'm interested to see, like, if he actually goes into free agency, what team will pick him up.
Yeah, and like you really can't say for sure that he's gonna stay in Cleveland because Cleveland is Cleveland. Like you never said one person like, "Yo, let's go to vacation in Cleveland." You know,
yeah, sadly, but that's what happens.
But yeah, honestly, solid list. I did not even think of Andre Drummond while making this list. He's another guy that kind of just flew by me.
I thought about Nikola Vucevic too, because Vucevic be putting up numbers as a center.
Didn't even think about him. He's fire. He's another great center, and
that was my honorable mention. That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
I might slide him in at 5. I might do like a slash thing like you did at point guard.
Okay.
But my number 1, I kind of did different than you, but I did the Joker, Nikola Jokic. Kind of like you said before, he doesn't wow you on the eye test. He's a big, pudgy 7-foot guy, and you wouldn't take him seriously, but he's a straight baller. Average double-double a game, 7 assists, like very underrated passer. Not a lot of people talk about that.
He runs the offense for Denver. Like, Jamal Murray doesn't handle the ball down the floor.
Jamal Murray, he's a bow and arrow guy. Jokic, he makes the passes, and it's fire. Like, they make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, like, I love him as a center. Like, he's one of the guys. I wish the Nets had him, but it's kind of how the league goes. People just go other places. But Jokic, he's a great guy. He's my number 1. Number 2, Joel Embiid. 1.3 blocks a game is kind of hard to do in the NBA, and that's not even his best. He got 1.9 and 1.8 the year before. So he does shoot a little bit too much threes, but I feel like he's the kind of guy, I feel like with the amount of shots, he's just going to get better at it.
Yeah.
My buddy said that Philly might be looking to move him. I don't know if that's true. But that's
the problem is the media doesn't have anything to talk about. So like for the last quarantine period that we've been in, it's always been either trade Ben Simmons or trade Joel Embiid.
Yeah,
because it don't work. That's the problem. That's why I hate Philly. Like you can't have a point guard that's really good, but he doesn't shoot at all. Like he doesn't even try to because he needs the post. And then you got Joel Embiid, he needs the post. And then you got Al Horford, he plays in the post. So it's just you clock the lane and it doesn't work for this era of basketball. But Joel Embiid, that's the thing. Like, because of this, he needs to shoot outside more. He has to shoot outside more so Ben Simmons can drive. But that's not Joel Embiid's best thing. Joel Embiid hasn't been playing basketball for that long in his career. He's been a baby in the sport. And, like, to him have the footwork in the post, like Hakeem Olajuwon comparisons back in Kansas, like, that's the one thing that I don't like about Joel Embiid. It's like, just stay in the post, bro.
And it's hard, though, because even him at a center, I would say he's a better 3-point shooter than Ben Simmons. I would say
He
so.
is. Everyone's a better 3-point shooter than Ben Simmons.
And that's like why you need him to shoot the three at Philly, because you need to space the floor, but it's dysfunctional. Like your point guard should be shooting that three, not the center. But nonetheless, like great player. I hate as a Nets fan seeing him so often because he always dogs our team.
Yeah.
It's kind of how the cookie crumbles. My number 3, I put Cat. I think Cat is the most underappreciated player in this league. I think he is awesome.
This is another fun fact with Cat. I mean, it's not an actual stat, but it's like just like a joke. Do you know who Bill Simmons is?
Yeah.
So he said the guy in the league that has the most disturbing or ugly or like I'm not happy faces in the league
Cat.
is Karl Anthony Towns.
It's just like every time. Think face. But might be biased because he's from Jersey. He went to St. Joe's, but
Yeah, that's true.
kind of like you were talking about before. He at the center position, I think he has the best shot. He can pull up from anywhere, and he sinks it. That defensive game could improve a little bit. Like it's kind of hard to be 7 foot and not that great at defense, so that's a big cutback on him. But I think Cat is awesome. Number 4, Rudy Gobert. I don't know what you said before. The Eiffel Stifler. Is that what you said?
Stifle Tower, the French projection.
The Stifle. I didn't even hear those before, but those are great. Like year to year, defensive player of the year. Just really hunkers down Utah. And you really, before 2 years ago, wouldn't even say Utah is a great team, like you were saying before, but in the West. And it's a big part due to Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, and they really hold it down there. Mm-hmm. And number 5, I put Kristaps Porzingis before, but I honestly kind of want to change it to Vucevic, to be honest.
Do whatever you want, my guy.
But I would do a slash. I think if Kristaps is healthy, they're very, very similar players, and I feel like either or you really can't go wrong with. But Porzingis, he's named the unicorn for a reason, and he's one of those guys. Like I would put him in the Andre Drummond trade as like one of the biggest steals of all time. Like
him and Andre Drummond.
So the Andre Drummond trade, like what Cleveland got for value.
Oh, I know what you mean. Okay.
Dallas got the same kind of value. They didn't give up anything.
They just gave a lot of pieces that don't fit in any, like they didn't fit in the system, so they just gave them away.
And to the Knicks, they literally traded them a point guard that the Knicks, they drafted Freight Ntilikina.
Yeah, and then none of those point guards are really working out for the Knicks. Yeah. That's a good point. The only good thing about the trade was the draft picks that the Dallas gave them, because they gave them 2 first-rounders. Yeah. That's the only thing. The players weren't that key to the trade. That's the one thing I will say.
Not at all. And like I think Chris, it's kind of hard to stay healthy that big of a guy. But if he does, like he's gonna still be a really good player.
That's the one thing that I was happy as a Knicks fan we traded him, is because like sure he can be like the greatest player of all time, but I don't trust him staying that healthy.
He's got the injury bug, so that's why like I could be more confident at Vucevic at 5, because I've never really heard of Vucevic being hurt. He kind of always.
He's one of those people that'll play 80 games a season.
He's kind of always in, and I was even looking at highlights today. Orlando's a very, very not talked about team. They were kind of. They went to LA and they beat them. That's crazy.
They got a good core, like Jonathan Isaac's defensive. Then Eric Gordon never been what he was supposed to be, but he's still in there. Then they got Marco Fultz's career revitalized, and it's like out of nowhere. Yeah. They got a good team. I've always been like a good fan of the Orlando Magic because like they made the playoffs last year. They were supposed to make the playoffs this year. Corona happened. That's that. But the one thing with Kristaps that I really wanted to say is that I feel like he hit his statistical peak in New York, because his statistics have not been the same as that one year he had in New York that he was an all-star. But he's at fault because he's playing with Luka Doncic now, and Dallas doesn't post him up. I don't know. I can send you the video if I find it later, but there's like Rick Carlisle's guy. Yeah, he can post up, but like, have you seen him shoot? So like, they'll just like have him shooting like 40-footers nonstop, and he makes them.
Dirk, and he's not. He's Porzingis.
Exactly, that's the thing. Yeah. It's different.
And I think they have they have a third guy that's like a center from like Eastern Europe too.
Max Kleber.
They're really big on that. They love their European people over there.
They do.
Good for them.
But I won't disagree with the Porzingis pick, because he's still a unicorn, as you said. He's really good.
And I hope he didn't reach his statistical peak, because even as a Nets fan, like watching him on the Knicks like 2-3 years ago, crazy player. Like,
he is. He's good. Like the putbacks he was putting back, and like the shots he'd be shooting and everything. But that's one thing that we will have to see in the future because he's still a youngling and he's still got time to even get better. But with that said, thank you, Goose, for joining us in the podcast today.
Brother, thanks for having me. It's been a
Any
while.
final thoughts?
Final thoughts. The guy we didn't even talk about. Talked about it a little bit. D'Lo. I don't know if you see him being in the top 5 on a healthy Timberwolves. I hope so.
If he would have finished the season, maybe I would have considered it. But the whole point was he got traded, and then like that Golden State Warriors team wasn't good enough, and he didn't put up those many stats. So like it's fluky. I don't know. Like I need a full season of him being in a team consistently.
And it's hard when you're snitching too. Not a lot of people gotta. But that's it for me. I really enjoyed being on here. Thank you for having me, brother.
Of course, Goose, and you're more than welcome to join us in future episodes to come. We still got to talk about soccer in another episode, so we'll figure that out. But thank you for joining us, Goose. And you, the listeners, thank you for coming. And this is it. Peace out, people. Peace.
Peace out, Dan.